Hey everybody, so we all just read Midsummer's Night's Dream by Shakespeare. So the first things that I noticed was that it was difficult to read. It's in older English. The vocabulary is a lot different. There's a lot of words I didn't recognize. And just like the manner of speaking is a lot different. So I had to reread a few times and just to get a bearing of what he was saying. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. The whole play was framed as a surreal experience, like kind of especially at the end. I think it was Puck who said, maybe you are just living in a dream, and this whole play is reflective of your experience that life is brief and ephemeral and as surreal as this play. So I thought that was an interesting part of the play. So some of the values that are being represented in this play. So Theseus and Aegeus, Hermia's father, are representative of the patriarchy. They're domineering men in positions of power. Aegeus as Hermia's father, and Theseus is the Duke of Athens. And they won't let her do what she wants. She can't even marry the man that she wants to marry. And Aegeus gets really, really upset when Hermia goes against his will and publicly humiliates him in his eyes. And then on the flip side, Hermia represents feminism and individuality and independence. And she is fighting to control her own destiny and make her own decisions, which I think is admirable. All right, so something I didn't understand at first, but I do now. I did not know what a changeling was. A changeling is a really weird concept. So a changeling is when you have a child that's stolen, I think, specifically by fairies or some magical creature, and replaced by a fake child. So obviously that's a pretty pivotal part in this story. So the whole point of Oberon and Titania fighting was Titania wouldn't give away her changeling. Oberon really wanted that changeling. So the whole love potion debacle was started by that conflict. So masculinity versus femininity in Midsummer Night's Dream. So I'd already touched on this a little bit. But in the beginning of the play, Theseus tells Hippolyta, his soon-to-be wife, that he wooed her with his sword. So that has some weird vibes to it, some sexual overtones, some tones of like dominance. So obviously he was able to marry her because he conquered the Amazons. So that's definitely a reference to male dominance and how masculinity is perceived in London and Athens in the story. So femininity, Hippolyta is obviously the dominated party, and she lacks power in the relationship. So that's how femininity is displayed. So one of the last questions is how does the casting of females by males in Shakespeare affect the play and how the audience perceives it? So I think that even though it was standard at the time, that it must still have been a little ridiculous and amusing for the audiences to see like fully grown men as women in the play, like loving each other and chasing after each other. I think that would just have been amusing to them, knowing that they were men pretending to be women. So the two questions I had from the play were, what role does jealousy serve in the narrative? And how does Shakespeare use Athens to reflect 16th century London? So if you guys have some answers, get back to me.